All right, today we are diving into Voodoo, a Hindi horror story that takes something as joyful as a wedding and twists it into this absolutely terrifying tale of supernatural revenge. Let's get into what makes this ghost story so unsettling. And wow, this line from the story, it just immediately sets the stage, doesn't it? It tells you right away that in this village, a celebration of new life is actually a moment of total darkness and, well, real danger. But here's the thing, we're not just going to retell a spooky story. In this explainer, we're going to go beyond the jump scares. We're going to break down the narrative structure of this tale of betrayal and, supernatural justice, and really dig into how the story masterfully builds up all that tension and then releases it. So our story kicks off with what should be a happy occasion, right? A wedding procession. But from the very first scene, the whole atmosphere is just thick with the sense of dread, really setting the stage for all the horror that's about to come. So we meet our bride, Purna, arriving with her new husband, Samir. But instead of, being welcomed into her new home, she gets stopped right at the village entrance. She's handed a prayer plate and told she has to perform this ritual to appease the ancestors and, more importantly, protect her from some evil spirit that apparently targets new brides. Her new mother-in-law, Asha, she explains this really grim village tradition. See, every single house has to keep a lamp lit outside its door. And if even one of those flames goes out on a wedding night, this evil spirit is unleashed and it will possess the new bride. And just as Prerna is nervously trying to do this ritual, the story throws in a new element. We see this mysterious figure completely cloaked in black, just watching from the shadows. Who are they? What do they want? And then, just like that, it happens. The thing that kicks this whole nightmare into gear. The figure in black moves to a nearby house and blows out its lamp. And at that exact moment, the flame on Purnra's own sacred plate just flickers and dies. And chaos erupts. The omen has come true. All right, so let's get into the rising action, because that bad omen, it wasn't just some vague warning. It was a trigger. The evil presence immediately makes itself known, and this is where the terror really begins. The change in Prerna is wow. It's instantaneous and absolutely terrifying. One second, she's a nervous but obedient bride, and the next, she's this silent, scary figure. When Samir touches her, she just violently shoves him away. And her eyes, they're a horrifying blood red. Yup, the family's worst fear is confirmed. Prerna is no longer Prerna. The spirit has possessed her. She lunges for Samir, her hands wrapping around his throat, all while speaking in a voice that is definitely not her own, promising that no one will be spared. Right when it looks like it's all over for Samir, a quick-thinking village woman runs forward and smears sindoor on Prerna's forehead. Now, this is a sacred powder, a symbol of marriage, but also protection, and it seems to work. The spirit's hold is broken and Prerna just collapses unconscious. So the family, thinking they need more protection, they send a family member to the temple for more of the sacred powder. But that figure in black is always one step ahead. They intercept the man, cleverly bump into him, and in that moment, swap the real Sindora with a fake, totally useless substitute. So now we're back in the house. And remember, they have no real defense left. This is where things just escalate. Prerna is tormented by these horrifying visions, a bloody hand dripping into the dessert she's making, the ghost of a gore-soaked woman who gives her this menacing smile, and it all finally breaks her, and that same evil smile appears on Prerna's own face. And that brings us to the story's violent climax. All that suspense, all that terror that's been building up, it is about to be unleashed as we finally find out the spirit's true identity and what it really wants. At dinner, Prerna, who is now fully possessed, serves the dessert she was making. When Samir looks down, he sees it swimming in blood, and as he's recoiling in horror, Prerna, her own face now dripping with blood, grabs him and just brutally smashes his head against the dining table. When Asha, the mother-in-law, rushes in to try and stop it, the spirit just turns its attention to her. And in this display of terrifying supernatural strength, Purna grabs Asha by the neck and, with one single sharp twist, snaps it. The family is completely powerless. Another family member, Vinod, he throws the fake sindoor at Prerna, but of course, it does nothing. She just laughs. They are trapped with this murderous entity, and they still have no idea who it is or why it's targeting them. And right here, this is the turning point of the entire story. The spirit finally speaks its name through Prenna's lips, Gunga, and she makes it perfectly clear she is there for one reason and one reason only, to get her revenge. Okay, so the story hits the brakes on the horror for a second and throws us into a flashback. We're leaving the present to uncover the dark secret this family has been hiding, the horrible crime that created the vengeful spirit of Ganga in the first place. This timeline, man, it just lays out how cold and calculated this whole thing was. When Gunga, who was the daughter of their maid, told him she was pregnant with Samir's child, he just disowned her. But when she threatened to expose him, the family plotted. They staged a fake marriage to shut her up, and then, when she was 8 months pregnant, they murdered her and made it all look like an accident. And here is the last heartbreaking piece of the puzzle. Sometime after the funeral, Gunga's mother, Rekha, comes to the house to get her daughter's things, and that's when she overhears the family just callously talking about how they got away with murder. Her grief just instantly turns into this burning desire for vengeance. All right, so now we snap back to the present for the story's grim conclusion. Now that we understand the why, we finally get to see the how, as the mastermind behind this whole supernatural revenge plot is revealed. It was Rekha all along. She's the figure in black. Driven by what they did to her daughter, she dove into black magic to give Gunga's spirit the power it needed. She orchestrated everything, blowing out the lamp to create the opening for possession and swapping the Sindoor to make sure there was no escape. She literally weaponized her daughter's ghost to deliver a horrifying kind of justice. So in the end, Ganga completes her revenge. She kills her murderers and her spirit is finally set free. The story ends with her mother, Rekha, finding this dark kind of peace. But it leaves us with a really unsettling question. In a world where human justice fails, does an act of brutal, supernatural vengeance actually become a form of justice? Or is it something else entirely?